fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
The cackle of laughing gulls and a swirl of gnats. Stepping up to the bulkhead, you eye up your first shot. The dogwoods bursting in full bloom along the fairways, the highways, and the byways. A hush falls upon the crowd. It's a tradition unlike any other. The arrival of black drum at the Jersey Shore. You know, Easter, one of the things I loved about this Easter Sunday, family dinner, and of course the final hour of the Masters tournament, the Masters at Augusta. And I've got to say, I sure hope that when Jim Nantz finally retires from announcing golf, that the folks at CBS have the guts to do the right thing and hire Bill Murray to announce golf matches as groundskeeper Carl Spackler. Cinderella story, tears in his eyes. He looks to be using a medium conventional with spiral wrap. Looks like 30-pound braid. I'm Jim Hutchinson with the New Jersey Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman magazine. It's April 13th, 2023, and just like that, boom, the black drum are here just after last week's full moon. Now, we reported one black drum from the beach at Fortescue in last week's video fishing forecast, but we had a whole bunch more over the Easter weekend showing up in our reports exclusively at thefisherman.com. Of course, our digital weekly edition for subscribers this week, it features young Carson here with his very first ever striped bass, a proud father there with Carson, somewhere along the Mays Landing, I think. But the call-outs really tell a full story about what you'll find in the reports this week. The outstanding striper bite on the Raritan Bay continues. The first weakfish reported out of Beach Haven at Jingles, and black drum arrive along the LBI beaches and back in Great Bay. Now, Captain Jonathan Kelly at LBI Sport Fishing said he's been prepping the boat for another season of action, but he hit the local sod banks over the weekend, had 10 black drum up to 50 pounds from shore, also had a few nice stripers, one pushing 36 inches. Then on Wednesday morning, I got a message from Qua Nguyen, actually soon to be Captain Qua Nguyen, that said he and his buddy banged a drum or two on Tuesday night on the sod banks of Great Bay. I do know a lot of boats and a lot of the captains in Cape May don't really begin booking their black drum charters until May. It certainly doesn't mean that those boomers aren't arriving there in Delaware Bay, especially after what we're seeing now in Great Bay. Of course, many of the for-hire boats all along the Jersey Shore are just so focused on the April togging. That's the way it's going. I did speak to Full Ahead's Captain Bob Cope on Wednesday. He was picking away at some tog while we spoke, but he believes that the smaller Great Bay area, because it's smaller, the water warms up more, so the black drum are snapping a little earlier than they do in the Delaware Bay, right? Makes sense. But Bob said he does expect to do a little bit of black drum recon work on Delaware Bay, but he's just waiting for any of the northeast winds that pop up. Hopefully they don't even happen. But if he gets chased off the tog grounds on a charter, he will go out back in lee of the wind back there and look for some black drum. Now, Cope told me there was another black drum report from along the beach at Fortescue this week. But I got to tell you, the big news from Fortescue this week isn't black drum, but striped bass. Doug Taylor, Easter Sunday, reported by Higbee's, then Doug emailed me this week as well, reportedly taped out at 55 inches. The Millville angler told the Atlantic City Press that he was fishing with buddies and was down to his final jumbo bloodworm. Carefully handled and released. That's a heck of a fish. Again, we're seeing a good number of spawning class stripers up the Delaware at this point, several good fish. I would encourage anglers to land, who land these big fish, to take really special care with those catches. Keep them as wet as possible. Don't keep them out in the air too long. Don't drag them up into the reeds and the dry sand. Get those photos quickly, and like Doug and Dan here, brace those sagging bellies to ensure that these fish can continue on their way unharmed to make a whole lot of baby stripers later on this spring. And while there are jumbo striped bass on the Delaware, and of course on the Raritan Hudson complex as well on the spawn, we are getting more and more coastal reports of schoolies and slot keepers in the mix along the local tackle shops along the Atlantic coast. Andy at Riptide Bait and Tackle in Brigantine, for example, on Monday let me know that Ryan Class had his first striper ever over the weekend, a 30-incher caught on salted clams at the North End Beach in Brigantine. So yeah, while it seems like bloodworms have been taking their fair share of fish on the Delaware and Raritan for those guys who like the dead stick, it sure seems like salted clams or fresh clams are the ticket for casters who are looking for a combo catch of striped bass and black drum, especially in the Long Beach Island, Atlantic City, down into Cape May County area as well. It's been tough the last few years, of course, to get fresh surf clams, either individual pieces or by the bushel bag. The clammers have been having a difficult time getting those surf clams, but if you can find them, it's definitely the way to go at this point, those fresh clams. I know that Tommy at Surf City Bait and Tackle had some this week. David at Absecon Bay Sportsman continues to carry clams. Allen's Dock in New Gretna has clams because they do have that black drum bite going on. So wherever you're doing your fishing, check in with a local tackle shop. Look for some of those fresh clams. But I got to tell you, the proof is in the pudding in terms of finding some black drum as well as striped bass as well. I did mention at the beginning of our forecast this week that some weakfish were reported at the Jersey Shore. Well, this week I saw where Jeremiah Calloway was creeping while the rest of us were sleeping somewhere under the lights, I would imagine someplace in Atlantic or Cape May County, but hooked up with this nice little weakie. You can expect the jumbo tide runners to start to flow into our inlets and estuaries in the coming days, primarily Atlantic and Cape May County, but ostensibly in Barnegat Inlet as well, and sometimes into the Manasquan too. Those weak fishermen, of course, are a tight-lipped group of guys. So a lot of times, by the time the secret is out, so too are the tide runners. But I would remind you, as Fisherman subscribers, the month of May is when we start that Dreamboat Fishing Challenge. So if you're looking to get on the board early, weakfish is the fish of the month for May. So get in, get on them. Break out those heavy-duty Ziploc bags. Get the Finesse Shedder oil or clam oil. Load all your pinkies in there, the pink Zooms and the pink Finesse. Douse that whole bag. Let them soak. But get yourself geared up for the tide-running weakfish run of 2023. So while black drum and weakfish have hit the southern grounds, we're still waiting for the first reports of those choppers. Pick up that at the April edition of the Fisherman magazine. Of course, look for Paulie and his gator on the cover of that April edition. We've got everything in here that you need to score through the month of April, whether it's fly fishing stripers on the Raritan, the bluefish, all kinds of great stuff. We've got it covered every month in the print edition of the Fisherman magazine. Of course, you subscribers too, you will get those weekly digital editions that I was talking about before. So make sure you subscribe. It's just $29.95. I do expect that we'll start to see some bluefish catches. Maybe it won't happen until after that next full moon, but that next full moon is May 5th. And I'm forecasting right now that around the time of that early May full moon is when we're going to see a cinder worm hatch here along the local estuaries. It's not actually a hatch, it's when the cinder worms spawn. But if you stumble upon that around the time of the moon, sometimes full, sometimes new, you'll see the stripers just rolling on those those spawning cinder worms. The pending spawn for striped bass, of course, up the Hudson River is what has all those Raritan Bay complex anglers just chomping at the bit to get out in the water every opportunity they get. Raritan Bay, Raritan River, the Hackensack as well. But Joe Casal of Nutley, he emailed me this week to say the stripers are here to lay the eggs and feed up. Joe caught this fish on the Raritan Bay at night using a Z-Man diesel minnow. He did recommend casting and allowing that bait to fall in a controlled way. Make sure you keep that tight line so you can feel those bites. You do get those hits on the free fall. And then he said once you get to the bottom, it's just a slow and steady retrieve back to attract a bite. So you've got those Z-Man diesel minnows. Also, of course, the NLBN 5-inch. I talked to Phil Shorentino at the Tackle Box this week. He said because of the big baits, the NLBN 8-inch swim shads are working well as well. Now, Joe offered that when fish get more active and are higher in the water column, a lot of times at the magic hour into the night on some of those water bodies up off of the Raritan, that's when you throw the SP minnows or the Yozuri Hydro minnows. They work great. Joe said bone and blurple. Of course, this incredible striped bass fishery on the Raritan has a lot of for-hire boats that typically run out of the like Shark River area or the Manasquan. They'll get slips up on the Raritan Bay just to take advantage of that April into May bite. That's what we're finding right now. Lou at Atlantic Highlands Municipal Marina, he said that this is the earliest in the season that they've had to roll over to lot 2 to handle all the traffic at the boat ramp. They've got 3 lots up there, but Lou said this is the second time, or the second lot that's being filled, the earliest he's ever seen it. He calls it another banner spring for striped bass there on the Raritan Bay. Trailer guys that I know are moving, the Huber boys, Tommy and Dennis, they trailered up from Brigantine late last week to get in on the bite. Dennis told me the bunker pattern Rapala X-Rap 20s on the troll are absolutely deadly. The pair fished Friday morning on the Raritan Bay, caught 20 bass before loading up the trailer, heading back to Brigantine, baiting up at Riptide Bait and Tackle to get out on the Absecon Inlet tog grounds as well. I also heard from new Fisherman subscriber Peter Pichota reporting from the Raritan on Saturday during the incoming tide. They found a nice school of stripers, 28 to 35 inches right there in that slot. They got them on umbrella rigs and tandem rigs. Chartreuse white, Peter said color didn't matter. They were all over them. That's a reminder for you this weekend as well, because April 15th is the New York State opener for striped bass. So you can expect to see some more crowded conditions up there this weekend. Good luck and have at it. Congratulations to 12-year-old Forrest Black, the 2023 Shark River Surf Anglers Kids Trout Contest champion, a tournament-winning 6-pound, 14-ounce brown on Saturday at Spring Lake. I have to say, I love going out to this event. I think this kids fishing event at Spring Lake is probably more rewarding to me than actually fishing myself. Shark River President Greg Hewitt, Club VP Ken Morse, and the rest of the Shark River guys and the American Legion folks as well, the Surf Kings too, for putting on a terrific event out there at Spring Lake, volunteering for a truly amazing contest for kids that just brings a smile to my face every time I'm up there. There are some monster trout deposited in that body of water before the tournament, and to see these youngsters battling big browns and rainbows and tigers, it's just a feel-good event. I walk out of there just feeling so fantastic. I would remind you that like so many other lakes and impoundments in the Garden State, a lot of the deposits of trout by the Division of Fish and Wildlife, it's there as put and take. A lot of those trout aren't expected to make it. So that's why it's just so cool to see these kids carrying up those trout to the weigh station, and they put those fish on the scale and their eyeballs are looking up to see where the scale lands. Just a great event. So yeah, New Jersey trout season is officially underway as of this past Saturday. Delaware, upstate and down, open for business. New York as well, and of course out in Pennsylvania. Trout season in the tri-state region is underway. For more on that and the rest of the freshwater update, let's check in with my friend George, the Pocono Outdoors Guy.
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. You know, this warm weather is certainly taking center stage as we open the trout season here in New Jersey. You know, a lot of things going on. Guys checking in all week, but this warm weather is certainly kicking that bite off. Starting things off with some folks checking in. Jen Wong, of course, out getting some of that opening season trout, and he was using those pink worms, artificials, you know, getting it done there. Also, Tom Dell out getting some stream-side rainbows as well. Great catch there, Tom. John Waters also checked in from New Jersey, out getting some beautiful rainbows there as well. And Sean Sullivan on the PA side out getting some beautiful rainbows too. So lots of great trout fishing, guys. That should be kicking things off now for quite a while and having some good trout fishing going forward. But also we got the pre-spawn bass bite is kicking in high gear. You know, we had Dan Flores. He was out casting for some muskie and threw a night crawler out as well just for some bass, and managed to get into a beautiful bass here while muskie fishing. So might as well kill two birds with one stone. And of course, Jen Wan checking back in again. You know, Jen checks in my mailbox probably every day with some great fish, but he's been out catching some of these pre-spawn bass as well with jerk baits and that lip glue attractant. Also, guys, don't forget, shad season is in full swing. We're getting them pretty much through the main part of the Delaware River. Some really nice roe being caught now around the Washington's Crossing area. So that major biomass is starting to move upriver. Some great fishing there. And remember, what's following those shad? We got the stripers, guys. We had some guys check in. We had Jack Lane check in with a beautiful striper he caught down in Philadelphia on the Delaware with some bloodworms. So keep that season in mind as you chase them shad. Pretty much anything you want to chase right now is going to be biting, so it's a great time to be out and fish. I hope you get on them. But for now, from Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors Guy.
From the Pocono Mountains to the Pacific coast of Costa Rica, let's check in with Captain Ben, jackpot sport fishing out of Marina Pez Vela in Quepos.
Hey there, guys, this is Ben Gilmore checking in from Costa Rica and the Marina Pez Vela with this week's fishing report. We got a nice little bite going on offshore here right now. We got some blue marlin happening offshore, primarily 30 to 40 miles out at the moment, the blue marlin. We got some nice sailfish action out there, and you should have seen the tuna today, guys. Yellowfin tuna from 30 pounds to 100 pounds, busting absolutely everywhere as they were feasting on big schools of flying fish, just National Geographic scenes out there. So offshore fishing wise, we got a huge tournament coming up next week. It's the Offshore World Championships, where the Marina Pez Vela will be hosting teams from all over the world. We can't wait for that one, and stay tuned for the results of that one coming soon. Closer to shore, we got roosterfish going on, as well as snook, snapper, jacks and mackerel. This is Ben Gilmore, guys, from the Marina Pez Vela. Back to you.
So the countdown to New Jersey's Fluke season opener is officially underway. Just 19 days from this day right now until May 2nd, and we're back in Fluke business here at the Jersey Shore. So while the April edition of the Fisherman magazine is out in newsstands now, boy, it's a nice heavy edition, all kinds of content, hopefully getting caught up reading it, because I've been spending a lot of my time sitting here at the desk wrapping up the deadline for the May edition that comes out in just about a week and a half. So you can expect when that magazine arrives, you'll find a whole bunch of Fluke articles to help you gear up for the May 2nd opener. I will remind you, of course, that you Delaware anglers, you're open for business already. The Fluke season never closes in Delaware. In his report to thefisherman.com this week, field editor Eric Burnley said he'd heard of rumors of summer flounder being caught in the Lewes and Rehoboth canals. He also had heard last Thursday of at least 4 drum caught at 3 R's Road, while striped bass and tog have also been caught from the Indian River Inlet. A few keeper stripers on cut bait for those anglers soaking baits on the opposite side of the Delaware at Dobbinsville. We're also getting reports from Augustine Beach and Broadkill as well. Finally this week, with 2 weeks left to go before the big high-profile NFL draft, some football news from the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, I know, I'm being a homer again, but this one's fishing related, trust me. You see, Birds wide receiver A.J. Brown will be fishing this Saturday, April 15th. He's going to join 6 other NFL stars on Saturday, playing alongside a Sport Fishing Championships leading anglers in the Catch, a saltwater fishing tournament that will be on CBS Live from the Fontainebleau, Miami Beach on Saturday. Now, the duos will compete to raise awareness for the ocean-based community champions. The competition will also support the Coast Guard Foundation. That will be broadcast this Saturday, 1 p.m. on CBS. In addition to A.J. Brown, Justin Herbert, the quarterback for the LA Chargers, he'll be fishing in it. I bring him up because did you know that he was president of his high school fishing club back in Louisiana? Yep, absolutely. That is going to be CBS, 1 o'clock. There's a 50% chance of rain on Saturday, so if you're a wuss like me, you might want to stay high and dry indoors and check that out. You'll also want to check this out if you're out and about Saturday morning. Tune to 97.3 FM ESPN out of Atlantic City as I join the lunatic himself, Tom P. of Rack and Fin Radio, sometime in the 7 a.m. hour. Tom wants to talk about breaking news on wind, sorry about that, and its foul impacts on our marine resources. If you get that station in South Jersey, 97.3 FM, but you can also stream it online, 973ESPN.com. Bang the drum, whip the weekies, tame those tog, and sock it to the striped bass this weekend. But don't forget about the local trout. A lot of waters have been stocked. We're only 1 week into it. Get your freshwater license, your trout stamp. Even the saltiest of saltwater fishermen and their brood can get out and enjoy the fruits of the Division of Fish and Wildlife's labors on the trout stocking grounds this weekend. This past weekend it opened up. Young Ray Carrico Jr. and the Grumpies team on the meet, Spring Lake, this past Saturday with a fine brown pushing the 4-pound mark. Take us out, Ray Jr., and catch them up.
Walk down. Right. That's a really good one.
That's right. You net that.
Sean, net that fish for him.
I gotta get this.
Oh my God.
Holy cow, Ray.
Oh yeah, right?
That's a good one. Raymond. Raymond, bring it right here.